I gotta get my timer ready. Whenever you're ready.
Ready to go?
Yep.
All right. All right, sounds good. We're going to get going. So thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. This is our second Village of Cottage Grove Trustee Candidate Forum that the Chamber has sponsored. So thank you for attending. All 6 candidates are here tonight. And thank you for attending in the audience as well. So I'm Mike Millage. I've been on the Chamber Board for 3 years. I'm here with Paula Severson, Executive Director of the Cottage Grove Chamber. Very happy to be here tonight. And so just a little background on the Chamber before we get going. We ended the year last year, 2018, with 180 members, many of which are located in Cottage Grove, but many are not, and many are from the area as well. So our mission in the Chamber is really to connect Chamber members to the community so we can all thrive together. And we really feel like this is a great forum for sharing information to help just spread the awareness throughout the community and get a chance to meet all of you. So thank you for your participation. Tonight the format is going to be a question and answer. Everybody's going to have 3 minutes to answer every question. We're going to start by just an introduction, opening. So everybody will have 3 minutes just to introduce yourself. Paula will be helping us to keep time over here, and we'll have some signs just in case anybody is getting close to their allotted time. So format of the questions. So the questions were developed through soliciting input from community members and from chamber members. We compiled them together and really tried to hit on all the themes that were being asked. So tonight we really have 6 questions, a 7th if time allows. And basically these were the 7 questions that were asked most frequently. So we tried to do it that way as well. All the questions were provided to the candidates this weekend, so everybody had the questions ahead of time. And without any further ado, I think we're ready to get going. Any questions? Sounds good. All right, so the way we're going to do this is we'll just start with Jim, and then we'll work our way down. So the first opportunity is just your general introduction for 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mike and Paula for putting this together. Appreciate that, the efforts you put into bringing us all together. Just a little bit about myself. I've lived in Cottage Grove for about 21 years. My wife, Hannah, and I have raised our 2 children here, Walter and Sarah. Went through the Monona Grove School District and had very positive experiences with the schools. We love the community. This is where our friends live and fellow Lions, and our experience with the community is it's been a safe and friendly community, great neighbors, close to Madison but not too close. I really believe that I've gotten to know the Cottage Grove government over the last couple of years, and my feelings are that they're very competent. We've got great leadership in the department heads. I've become familiar with the department managers, and I can say with confidence that we really don't have any weak links. What I think my emphasis over the next coming 2 years will be is to try to keep spending under control with the school district, spending more. It's up to us to be able to keep property taxes under control, so that is my main priority, is to try to make the village government even more efficient and more cost effective.
Thanks. Alex?
You're going to hear it 1, 2, 3, 4 more times, 5 times from me. Thanks for hosting this. Thanks for putting this on, Mike and Paula. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. I think 180 members is a tremendous amount of growth. I don't think it was that much, 4 years ago, and so a little bit about me. I'm an import. I came to Wisconsin from Pennsylvania in 2012, and I had sort of the high-level view of Wisconsin. I need to get here. I came here for work, and where do you live? And looked at Oregon, looked at Monona, looked at where I was looking to work in the Stoughton area and all that stuff. And Cottage Grove had the logistics, as you mentioned, of being close to Madison, close to the highway, near Milwaukee. You can be anywhere in 20 minutes. And when my family visits, how long does it take to get to Oak Brook Gardens? 20 minutes. How long does it take to get to the Zoo? 20 minutes. How long does it take to get to the West Side? 20 minutes, and then another 20 minutes. And so we sort of rounded everything into this 20 minutes, and it really turned out to be a nice place to live. The neighbors, I got a new home, so I didn't have to deal with home breakdowns and issues like that. I really enjoyed the stay here, and the neighborhood has been great. The park system, the focus that the village has on that stuff, the focus that the community has had with the business outreach and the growth we've seen in the past few years has really sustained that I made a good decision to be here. I was able to serve the community in 2015 through 2017 as a village trustee before, and I needed to step down as work travel really took a lot of time away. This job does require quite a bit of time in the evenings. That job that mission has ended, and I now have the time to really get back in. And I also want to thank the other candidates here. While this sort of feels like a competition, I think we all still have the best interest of Cottage Grove at heart. And so an election without choice really isn't an election. So thanks to everybody for putting in your names and all that stuff as well. And look forward to learning more about you today. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, Jeff?
So my name is Jeff Lundberg. I'm currently a village board trustee. I was appointed in November of 2017. Graduated from UW-Madison with a history degree with an emphasis on anthropology and sociology. Went on to Edgewood College after that, got my teaching degree, Broadfield Social Studies, grades 6 through 12 through the state of Wisconsin. Met my wife Gretchen in 1990, and we were married in 1993. We have 3 wonderful children. James Lundberg, who lives down in Florida because he's a smart kid. He's a computer engineer down there, just got his first job, so he's pretty excited about that. My daughter Haley, she's 21. She's just kind of working right now, trying to decide what she wants to do next. My daughter Rebecca, who's 15, she's a freshman at MG. I am a project estimator for Genesis Painting. I've been there for 23 years. So in 1996 I started there. I'm also a part-time worship leader and pastor. I've been doing that since around 2008 roughly. Why did we choose the village of Cottage Grove? In 2005, my wife and I were living up the road on Amnicon Trail in Door Creek, and we were trying to determine, okay, we're going to have another kid, we need to get a bigger home, where should we move to? So we looked at Wanakee, we looked at DeForest, we looked at Verona, and we also looked at Cottage Grove. Through some friends of ours at New Life Church, because we were members there at the time, we learned about the school district here. That was one of the big draws for us. But the other draw for us was the potential of growth. We were the first phase in Coyle Highland. That was just wrapping up, and they were looking at phase number 2 with John DeWitt and his group that was developing that. And there was just a lot of potential. We saw it was close enough to Madison. We were just right on the interstate. There was just a lot of potential, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. We raised our 3 children. You doubt that they're up and out of the house mainly, so they got a freshman still, but she doesn't need her dad as much. I've got more time to put towards that, what I wanted to do. Why did I choose to be on the village board? Basically, I feel that we have a mentality that kind of wants to just maintain status quo and not necessarily look towards the future. And I'm somewhat of a vision caster, so I look at the future and say, what is the potential that we have here in this village, and what can we get accomplished?
So first, I would also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the event tonight, and I'd like to thank everyone that took the time to attend the event tonight to listen to the 6 of us talk about our vision for Cottage Grove. So my name is Heidi Murphy, and I grew up in nearby Cambridge, Wisconsin. I attended UW-Madison and earned a degree in geography, which included courses in urban and regional planning. After my undergraduate career, I continued my education and earned a certificate in geographic information systems. Then after college, I moved to Chicago to work for the U.S. Census Bureau at the regional office for the 2010 census. I worked with local governments to update their geographic information and on educational outreach. I also led a 6-state regional team on one of the ongoing surveys. I also have experience substitute teaching, and I was involved in the school's extracurricular activities. My husband and I then had the opportunity to relocate back to the Madison area near both of our families. We're excited to purchase a lot and move to Cottage Grove because it is a wonderful community. I currently work part-time at the University Bookstore in the clothing buyer's office. I'm on the Friends of Bakken Park group, which helped design the future planned splash pad. And I was recently nominated as a resident representative on the ordinance committee. My background in planning and my work experience using data and statistics would be valuable to the village board. In addition, my previous work experience in a school district and my current role at a local business will provide an additional lens to evaluate plans. So my goal is to work with a long-term vision for the village, to promote business and residential growth with a focus on the future. I will look forward regarding our plans to keep our long-term financial situation stable, assess our changing transportation and infrastructure needs, and consult experts regarding those needs. I will ask questions all along the way to ensure we are making the right decisions for the village of Cottage Grove, ensure that safety is at the forefront of our conversations, keep outdoor spaces a priority because they are most valued resources. I am ready to do my homework, ask questions, consult experts, listen to other viewpoints, and serve the residents of the village.
Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks again to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event, those in attendance here in person, as well as those watching on TV. And I want to also thank the candidate sitting next to me. Like Alex indicated, it's sometime not the most desirable job, but it's certainly needed, and it's really great to see that 6 candidates are running for 3 positions. I'm John Russell. My wife and I, Amy, moved here in 1998, so we've been residents here for about 21 years. Actually moved in the week after our wedding. I was working at the time in Milwaukee. We have family still on the east side of Madison, so we wanted some access to the interstate. We did look at some Prairie and some other surrounding communities, and just between the village of Cottage Grove, the school district, found it a desirable place to set down roots, and we've been here for 21 years. I have one daughter, 17. She's a junior at Monona Grove High School. Positive experiences there, and this is really the only community she knows is home. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Public Policy Administration from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and furthered my education with a Master's of Arts degree in Leadership Studies focused on nonprofit and public sector work through Marshall University. I retired after 26 years of military service. I retired in July of 2016, and as I retired, I decided to donate or contribute more into the community. This job, as well as some of the other volunteer opportunities I've been afforded the opportunity to provide back to the community in my retirement, has been rewarding, and I'm certainly happy to do that. I have experience in the military in strategic planning, operations and resource management with specific budget management over the last 16 years in my military career. I was appointed as a Village of Cottage Grove trustee in January of 2018. Current service on the following committees and commissions: the chairman of the Joint Fire Committee with the town and the village, serve on the Deer Grove EMS, Utility Commission, Natvik Landfill, Board of Review, and Ordinance Review. I actually started getting involved as a citizen member on these committees in 2003 up until my appointment. So from 2003 to 2017, I served on 5 different boards and committees, having to resign twice due to overseas deployments. I'm a current member of VFW 7591 located on Cottage Grove Road, past commander for 2 years, once again, a non-paid position, and you hear more about what you should be doing versus the good job you are doing. And that's what I want to get is more community input through public hearings, through neighborhood meetings, hear about solutions to problems and getting public input before it becomes a problem. Also a member of the American Legion here in Cottage Grove. In retirement, I identified the need that they need certified poll election workers. I volunteered to that, so I'm a certified election worker. A longtime crossing guard retired here in the fall, so I substitute as a crossing guard. Probably not for the next couple months as I recover from my ice injury. Active member, I got involved as the American Legion rep with the Chamber of Commerce.
That's what happens when I guess you run out of time. I didn't know.
All right. That was a quick 3 minutes. Thanks.
It goes fast.
Sure. So I'll follow the trend in thanking the fellow candidates, people here watching in the chamber for hosting, so thank you. I'm Sarah Valencia, and I am wanting to represent my community as a Cottage Grove Village trustee. I grew up all around Wisconsin with my parents and younger sister. My dad is a United Methodist pastor, which brought us to live in many communities, such as Fenimore, Beaver Dam, and Appleton. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Social Work in 2003 from Carroll University in Waukesha. After graduation, I became a United States Peace Corps volunteer, and I served in Honduras for 2 years as an urban youth development volunteer. During those 2 years, I met my husband, Renee, who is a Honduran native and is now a U.S. citizen and works for a local law enforcement agency here in Dane County. After finishing Peace Corps, Renee and I moved back to Madison to be close to my parents, and we lived in a townhouse on the east side of Madison for about 9 years. We adopted our daughter in 2010. She is now 18 years old, goes to school in the Monona Grove School District. We moved to Cottage Grove 5 years ago because we liked the community atmosphere and the quality school district. We love the location of our home. We can walk to the Piggly Wiggly, the post office, the bank, the restaurants. It's fantastic, and we love living here in Cottage Grove. I have a master's degree from social work from UW-Madison with an emphasis on health, aging, and disabilities. I'm currently the Director of Population Health for Unity Point Health Meriter Hospital, and I'm the Vice President of the UW Health Accountable Care Organization. Within this role, I'm responsible for a team of professionals that are dedicated to taking care of a wide variety of patient populations, ranging from patients with dementia to people who are homeless. In this role, I also develop community partnerships with organizations such as community paramedics and local managed care organizations. I also have recently been named interim manager of New Start, which is the outpatient alcohol and other drug abuse treatment center operated by Unity Point Health Meriter. Additionally, I'm an associate lecturer at UW-Madison School of Social Work in their master's program. I teach the macro level social work as well as healthcare. I'm committed to using my experience and skills to serve my community. An example of my community involvement is my service as Vice President of Newbridge Senior Coalitions, the newly merged organization that makes up the 4 senior coalitions here in Dane County. My leadership roles in healthcare, social work, and nonprofit sectors have prepared me to be an effective and open-minded village trustee. I have focused my career on serving my community through direct practice, policy development, and teaching in higher education, and I would be honored to have your vote and support on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, thanks everyone. So now we're going to go to the question format of the program tonight. So just to just go over this, we're going to ask the question to each of the 6 candidates up here. It's 2-minute responses now, just so we can get all the questions in. And just to kind of cover again, because I think it's important how these questions were developed, we solicited feedback from the community, from chamber members, and there were pretty clear themes of questions that were being asked. And those are really what came out in the 6 questions that were sent tonight. So I think we'll go back to Jim and then start alternating who goes first. So first question tonight is, what are your top 3 priorities for Cottage Grove, and how do you plan to execute them?
Well, I would first of all list them: commercial growth, control spending, and controlled residential growth. The first, with commercial growth, we have been very active as a board in developing tax incremental districts that will promote and facilitate the growth of businesses coming to Cottage Grove and expanding in Cottage Grove. We've had obviously a real big impact, especially near the interstate, and there's more to come. We've got some exciting things moving forward. I'm very happy about what's on the horizon there. As a board, I think our job is to remove all the obstacles we possibly can to promote businesses to move into Cottage Grove and to grow and prosper. We also need to be somewhat selective in the area of, we also said no to a couple of businesses, Casey's, because of community response, and the storage locker business. So we have to be selective as well. The other 2 areas, controlling spending. I think I've got a better handle now, after 2 years of being on the board, of how we do that. I'm a member of the Budget and Finance Committee, and the process has to happen upstream to control spending. It's about making tough decisions. It's about saying no. And then residential growth needs to be controlled. I don't believe that we need to subsidize residential growth. I think we want to do it responsibly. I also believe in emphasizing owner occupancy. That's the feedback I got overwhelmingly when I gathered the signatures for my candidacy. People want owner occupied in Cottage Grove, and I would honor that.
Thanks.
I will figure this out. Seriously.
2 minutes went fast. The 2 minutes went fast.
We know
It
now.
goes fast.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
you and a lot
Yeah.
of questions,
Yeah.
so.
Alex, same question.
Okay, same question. Yep. So I guess the top three, really I want to make sure that our ordinances and policies are current. You know, our directions change kind of as the leaders change. And while we each bring our unique flavor to the board and the direction, we need to make sure that there is still consistency. And that is done through our comprehensive plan, that is done through our ordinances. And if they're not up to date, if they're not up to snuff as to what the overall direction is, it can lead to confusion for businesses who want to come in because that is their first entry point. They meet our paperwork first before they meet us. So my goal really to make sure is that all that stuff is up to date, and that really is about ensuring the committees and the ordinances committees are meeting regularly and meeting objectives, have objectives and meeting them. Second big one is really school board outreach. I don't really feel Cottage Grove is properly represented to the Monona Grove School Board, or Cottage Grove is really represented. I'm not saying we don't have good residents on the board. I know we have residents on the Monona Grove School Board. But I do recognize that their job is to run that school, and we are really kind of like a major stakeholder in what's going on in the village, right? So as the school evolves, that is a direct reflection of the community as well, and our representation with that group. Now, this one's tough. It's a different group. Is it local meetings? Do we try to get seats on committees and bring that networking together? But I think there's a lot of networking that we need to look at doing. And then the other one is really a lot of the businesses and stuff growth too. You know, we need to fill Commerce Park. The village owns land up to the north. And we need to really be out of the land business. That TIF is expired, and I think it may have been extended. And you know, we own that land, but we really need to get out of it. I think there's a couple of groups that did come in at some point and look into it. You know, I know we have a marketing group helping out with that. We may need to look at, you know, changing direction. We need to get that plot done so that we can move on to focus on the new projects as well. So that's kind of my top three. Thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
Well, my top priorities are smart commercial growth. Now, smart growth, commercial growth, is a buzzword. You hear a lot of people say smart, smart. What does that really look like? And what that means is making sure that the businesses that we are bringing into our community, allowing to invest in our community, are right for our community. Jim had pointed out Casey's. That was a great example of one that just was not right for our community. We knew it, and we were able to say no to them. You just can't willy-nilly say yes to every business that comes along, or else you end up with the situation in Sun Prairie, which talking to homeowners, that's not what they want. The second one would be establishing and maintaining positive relationships with developers. Instead of standing in their way, trusting that they have the interest of our community in mind, that we're hiring them and allowing them to be in our community with expertise and going ahead and following along the lines of that. And in the part of that, making sure that as a village board trustee, I'm putting the residents of our village first. And when we're looking at different commercial growth. And finally, the last one is developing inclusive neighborhoods. If you come into Cottage Grove, the village of Cottage Grove, you see a lot of nice homes going up. You see a lot of nice neighborhoods going up. But we also need to know that, or have to understand that there are people that want to call Cottage Grove home that can't call it Cottage Grove home because they're not going to be able to afford $400,000 to $500,000 home. So we have to have a lot of mixed housing options. We have to have a lot of options that are open out there for the workforce. If we're going to bring businesses in, if we're going to invite businesses into our community, we've got to be able to supply them with a workforce. And if we don't have the housing for them, you know, I guess we could say that they're going to come from other communities to work here. But if we want them to stay here and play here and spend their money here, then we got to have a home for them too.
So my first priority concerns commercial growth. I will work with a long-term vision for the village of Cottage Grove and focus on commercial growth that builds upon our existing assets, strengthens our community, and builds long-term value to attract and maintain investments in our community. With a vision for sensible growth, we can ensure we have economic opportunity and that our growth meets the needs of our businesses and our residents. My next priority ties into growth and development and addresses housing options for residents. Our community's housing costs have outpaced local incomes. As a result, a large portion of our potential workforce has been priced out of nearby residences, and many current and future businesses have a smaller local workforce. The combination of skyrocketing housing costs with stagnant wages is interfering with the labor market and could slow our economic growth. We must insist on inclusive housing policies that temper rising costs and make it possible for people at different income levels to call Cottage Grove home. A third priority would encompass the daily quality of life for our residents. I will address and actively work to improve the quality of life, whether it's day-to-day concerns or larger plans for amenities. We have some future projects in the plan, such as increasing amenities at Bakken Park and the extension of the bike path. If we can pair that with increasing walking paths and diversifying transportation options, we will build long-term value and maintain investments and businesses in our community.
Okay, my top three priorities are growth, and I break that down into two. One is obviously residential, as touched about. We've annexed a number of acres from the town, and we're looking at possibly an annex to petition some additional acreage in the future. So I think we need to market to all developers and work with the builders to obtain fresh and new ideas to discuss some of the topics that the other candidates have already mentioned. And the second part of growth is business, offering more offerings for amenities and really solidify that Cottage Grove First campaign, and ultimately entice a hotel with Summit headquarters coming here with the rugby team. We have a lot of family and friends that visit us. It'd be nice to have a hotel in the area as well. And the creation and approval of the TIF districts go a long way. Now I think as a village board and the staff, we need to market those opportunities that exist within the village. Second priority is public safety. We have a top-notch police department that just got accredited, but it goes beyond the law enforcement. It goes to like the sidewalks at Bakken Park and safe trails to our park systems along Vilas Road. And my third priority is a boundary agreement with the town of Cottage Grove and Madison. You know, looking at Madison's plans, they want to come right up along the golf course along Vilas Hope. And you know, I lived in the east side of Madison, love Madison, but I moved to Cottage Grove for a reason. It's close enough, but it's not home. So, and the way I would execute that is communicate to the constituents as well as champion the effort.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
Great. So I want to ensure that all families in Cottage Grove have access to the resources, services, and opportunities that they need, not only to meet their basic human life needs, but to also live their best life in Cottage Grove. So my top three priorities of Cottage Grove are similar to my colleagues here: develop long-term plan for sustainable growth and to support local businesses and residents. Number two, to enhance community spaces that reflect our neighbors' values and priorities. And number three, support our emergency personnel to provide continued excellent safety and comfort for our village. Execution on all of these topics will require research, community engagement, business engagement, and collaboration. I am committed to listening to neighbors, representing their voices, and answering their questions. I want to help develop new and easy ways for neighbors to share their opinions, to be more engaged in community decisions.
Great. Thank you all very much. So we'll go on to our second question tonight. If that's okay, we'll have you start first. In what capacity do you see the town and the village working together?
Yeah, this one's really huge. You know, during my first term through 2015, 2017, we really started to meet with the town. And as a new trustee, you can't work with the town. You know, don't do it by the trying. Like, you know, these are the words you hear, and then so that makes me want to try harder. And we met with the town, and actually, you know, they're a real good group of people. I ended up meeting with them, and we had the dual landfill committee, so it was a pleasure to meet them and work through them. I sat in on a few of the joint fire EMS committees from time to time, and that whole team really kind of had a good perspective because they've been around for quite a while. They know a lot of the history of the area. We do need to make sure that we are in alignment, though, with some topics with them, such as, you know, the school expansion, mutual aid issues, such as the police department and fire, stuff that we own and stuff that is shared services directly. And we need to follow up timely with them. You know, if we don't get a response that we're looking for something, or we're unclear between lawyer communications sometimes, you know, we need to be able to go back to them and get them to the table and sit down and work with them and hash out the issues. We have growth for ourselves is what we're focused on, but they are also our neighbor, and we need to be good neighbors to them, and we need to make sure that they're included. And I think some of the things that maybe John's talked about with the community outreach and sitting down at the table and bringing people together, inviting to the town to those types of forums as well, really will help engage them into what we're looking to do, our vision for the future for the village, and how that interfaces with them. So it's a big deal. So thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
So I believe that the town and the village need to work together in several different areas. One big area for sure is in the area of respect, that we respect each other because we are neighbors, that we are in the vicinity of each other. We're two different municipalities, but we're also, and I've heard it said before, we are one community in a way. And not just by name, but also personalities in our neighborhoods. One big way to work together, Alex has just pointed it out, is to make sure that the joint fire works together, that the EMS works together, that we're all working together to make sure that our communities are safe and that they're proper, and that that there's avenues where if our police can't get there, then the sheriff gets there. If we can't get our police there, then the sheriff is there, that we're working together there. Another way too is if there's a piece of equipment, say there's a piece of equipment that needs to be used for some infrastructure, working together on who pays for that, who's using it, and is there going to be mutual use in it? If something happens to it while we're using it, does the village pay for it? And working those details out.
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
Well, I believe that we should have an open, productive, and forward-focused dialogue, and that would benefit both of our communities. Specifically, I thought of transportation networks. If we can work together on a more adaptive transportation network, we can reduce congestion, promote different modes of transportation, promote active lifestyles, improve emergency response, and ensure safety in our communities. I was reading a study that found that the better the street networks were connected, the more households a fire station could serve and the lower the per capita costs of that service would be. So I think that's something that we could work together to do. I think that those would be shared goals we would both want to achieve. So I'd like to look forward to the future and together strengthen our local economy, improve the daily lives of each of our residents, protect our natural habitats and resources, provide transportation choices, and promote a safe, secure, and prosperous future for our residents and businesses.
Thanks, Heidi. John?
All right, I identified two areas where the village and town can work together. First off, it's information sharing and gaining consensus on what is best for Cottage Grove, because as mentioned before, we are really one community, the community of Cottage Grove. Very proud that the board, in the last year and some months that I've been appointed on the board, that the two boards have met jointly 3 times. And while we're not gaining a lot of support in financial sharing or fiscal responsibility, at least we're talking, and talking is definitely a step in the right direction. Second item that I think we can work together with the town is where it makes fiscal it's fiscally responsible. Whether that be shared heavy equipment, which I know our public works departments work together and they share equipment, but if we can go into a major purchase and maybe do some cost sharing that way. Joint financing on some of the parks and the green spaces, as mentioned. We have Bakken Park that sits right between the village and the town, and it's village property, and it's really the gem of our park system, in my opinion. I really enjoy the neighborhood parks, but Bakken's going to be the destination for not only village and town residents, but really, citizens from surrounding communities once we get the splash pad and actually foresee the vision of Bakken Park. Talked about fire protection, emergency services. We're already in contract with them, so where it makes fiscally responsible, I think that's where we can make our biggest bang for the buck working with the town.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
So the relationship, I know, between the village and the town is complex and has a complex history, and I believe it's important to understand and respect and appreciate that history and work to collaborate together and serve the residents of Cottage Grove, both the village and the town. It's critical to make decisions in a strategic way that will benefit both communities in the long run. I would strive to strengthen the professional working relationships between the two groups and maintain an open line of communication. And I believe that we can achieve more by working together when it makes sense, fiscally and operationally, to provide the most benefits to all Cottage Grove residents. With all of that in mind, ultimately my constituents are the residents of the village, and I will advocate and make decisions on their behalf and based on their best well-being.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, there's a lot more that unites us than really divides us as a community. I mean, obviously we share the same name. We work together on fire protection, EMS. We share the same school district. There's more that brings us together. You know, I wish we still had the same police force, but that decision was made prior to my joining the board. So there is a lot that we have to bind us. I think the things that separate us are smaller, but we do need to be cooperative. I think we have fantastic cooperation within Public Works. This has been touched on by other candidates, and I think that we have to be respectful in our growth, but we are 3 miles away from Madison right now. In the next 10 to 15 years, we're probably going to be a mile away from Madison. And it's either Cottage Grove going there or they're coming to us. So we have to work together with the township to make that work out the best for everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. So we'll go on to our third question tonight. The growth of Cottage Grove and the Monona School District are linked. What role should the village play in school-related issues, future planning, etc.? And we'll start with Jeff.
So there are 3 roles that I believe that the village plays, and it's kind of in unison with the school district. One is communication. We need to make sure there's clear communication for the needs, like facilities, what facilities are needed, what student programs are needed. One of the things that I'm very proud of is being a village board trustee on the committee for the peer courts. Working in restorative justice, when a student in the school district doesn't maybe make the right choice, the best choices, how can we kind of guide them along in a structured way, but in a very constructive way. So those are all different ways we can do in communication. The second would be sharing the use of facilities. I know for a fact that our department, our village department, rec department uses the facilities at the school for after-school programs, and the school district uses our parks and our fields, and then continuing that relationship and making sure that we're open to those uses for each other. The third one would be village growth. This is a big one. The village growth is huge because let's put the elephant in the room, the referendum. One thing the board didn't approve, I mean, it's not, the referendum didn't happen because of the board, it's because the voters chose that they wanted that school to come. So now we have to work with that. Well, it's imperative then, since the school was based on projected growth of the village, that we need to make sure that that growth happens in order to make sure that we have the ability to pay for the schools and things that, for the referendum. So. 2 minutes is hard, by the way.
You got 18 seconds.
got 18
yeah.
seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were holding up the other side. That's all right. That's fine.
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
So I wanted to first address the kind of most pressing issue, which is the village that is going to have to work closely with the school district regarding the plans to build the new elementary school. The new school will have some traffic issues to discuss, and my main priority is ensuring the safety of parents and students to get to school in a safe way, and also that commuters can get to work in an efficient manner. We should have a strong and consistent dialogue with the school district to ensure we can both plan for the future. Which brings me to my broader point. We want to continue to provide a quality education that includes excellent staff and programs for our students to set them up for success in the future. We need a long-term plan to increase the tax base to properly fund our schools. In a recent meeting, the superintendent emphasized the need for consistent growth to support our school district. The projections are planning that all of this growth would come from the villages of Cottage Grove, as Monona does not account for significant growth. He indicated that in the past, we were adding approximately 50 new students per year, and a rate of somewhere between 50 and 100 students per year is ideal in the district's current plan. But we have slowed to 10 to 20 new students per year. Our new construction building permits in the village have hovered around or below 20 building permits per year over the past 5 years. If we are serious about properly funding our schools and reducing our tax burden, we need to review our priorities for development.
Thanks, Heidi. John?
All right. I would pursue continued dialogue, maybe shifting from the administration. Dan Olson and Jared Rossing, both residents of the village, come and relay the message. And I would shift that to actually having a joint meeting with both the town, the village, and the school board to see what the elected officials have to say. One idea working with the school is actually came out through a listening session during the referendum, and that was actually to maybe champion or explore a indoor sports facility out in Cottage Grove. If anyone's taken a look at the map, our varsity teams, all state level competitors, they have to practice and compete throughout Monona as well as Cottage Grove. And if we had an indoor sports facility, the school district could potentially rent that out for competition year round, maybe generate a little bit of revenue, which, you know, they have a set budget set aside that maybe offsets the cost of liaison officers, things of that nature, whether it's a pool, soccer, basketball. Competitions could occur year-round, and it could generate revenue in the village of Cottage Grove. Lastly, the school safety and continued support for the school resource officer. The village provides the glacial Drummond, and I'll just close by saying I did run unsuccessfully coming out of my military retirement for the school board. I earned 997 votes. I think I established productive relationships with the school board members, the administration, and I did gain a vast understanding of their operations and budget.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
Many families move to Cottage Grove for the school district, similar to my husband and I. And so we definitely appreciate the quality education that our children get here. With the majority of new growth in Cottage Grove being young families, Cottage Grove has the largest total percentage of residents under the age of 18 than any comparable surrounding area in Dane County. So it is vital that we be increasing our tax base, similar to what some of the other colleagues have said, so that we can best fund the schools so that they can do what we want them to do, which is provide the best education for our kids.
Thanks, Sarah. Jim?
Yeah, I agree with most of what was said. The Wisconsin law definitely favors growing districts over shrinking districts. It's just the way that the funding works. Growing districts get money. Also, growth fits in with the school district's plan. They've now accounted for it. Voters have voted for it. So it's you know, so we have to now supply that. And I think what I would emphasize is try to keep that growth responsible, and especially, I guess I feel pretty passionately about owner-occupied is the way to grow and fund the schools properly. So. Yeah, we don't want to grow like Sun Prairie, but I think a controlled growth is needed now after our kind of pause in growth for so long.
Thanks, Jim. Alex?
So the role we should play is kind of the question that is difficult. As I read through my response, I'm not sure I have a total answer. I mean, this is totally, we are two separate groups similar to with the town, right? So the village vision statement we have on our website, Cottage Grove will be a safe, friendly, and attractive community for businesses and neighbors and families to live, learn, work, play, and enjoy the richness and opportunities of a growing village, right? So the village, we want to be a stakeholder in education. We got the word learn in there. The vision for MG School District is, the Monona Grove School District is a student-focused culture that empowers continuous learners to embrace global opportunities and excellence. Not really sure what that is. And even talking to, I met the superintendent, I was like, do you even know what your vision is? And at the time he did, and I did call him off and kind of off the cuff at one point, but he wasn't even sure what it was. So, like in my 2 years as on this trustee before, I think we only had one meeting with the school board at the time. We discuss a lot of issues about growth and about community. We want to be stakeholders. We really don't set policy for learning, though. We're not close enough to that group, and I think there's a real disconnect. And we can even see from the latest board, the latest direction where they're trying to annex 15 acres. We've asked about that prior to the referendum. The referendum was passed, and now they're coming back and saying, hey, we need a little bit more land. That's a definite disconnect, because even the village wasn't prepared for that. As we're trying to plan and say, yes, we want this growth for you, and then all of a sudden they're changing directions midstream, and we're not really communicating up front. So this was really going to be difficult, and we're going to have to work hard, because we need to get them to the table. The only people you can change is yourselves. You can't change others. So we really need to explore how we're going to connect with the board, how we can get in front of them with meetings, and how we can also engage community outreach to make sure we hold ourselves as trustee members, but also hold that board and those employees accountable for the actions and the steps that they're taking towards the community that we live in. So that's a tough one. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. All right, move on to question number 4. Kind of a long one here. What initiatives or steps will you take to reduce the tax burden and provide more value for amenities and services for Cottage Grove residents? What is your position on the village-wide tax reassessment options that were discussed recently? And we'll start with Heidi.
I have a lot on my paper for this one, so I shouldn't waste any time. So I'm also concerned about our village taxes. We are trying to provide the current level of services with inflating costs each year, which means we have to examine many aspects of the budget to come to a solution. And I would also like to see additional amenities in the village, including things like the splash pad, bicycle, and walking paths. I will work to develop a plan that accommodates population growth, keeps residents in our community, and provides the tax base required to meet our needs. If we prioritize commercial development, then key projects can be implemented as catalysts to develop the surrounding areas with businesses that complement that key anchor. If we fill the TIDs with businesses that enhance our community, we will have a more stable financial future as the TIDs close. We can also play a more active role in guiding where development should occur, infilling areas to minimize upfront infrastructure costs. Water, sewer, and road infrastructure costs less in compact developments. In addition, ongoing expenses, including those for police, fire, and emergency services, street maintenance, and trash removal, are higher per capita when development is dispersed and infrastructure must serve people across larger geographic areas. I am prepared to put in the work to keep our property taxes stable while thinking about current and future needs of our residents and businesses. And then to briefly address the village-wide reassessments, the purpose of those assessments is to distribute the tax burden in a consistent manner throughout the village, and the state requires us to be within a certain window. If our non-compliance continues for an extended period, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue will order a revaluation that's contracted and monitored by the Department of Revenue, and those costs would be billed to us. We have let the lack of reassessments go on for too long, and I believe we should take a systematic and scheduled approach to reassessments. It's our duty to have an accurate and uniformly applied tax system.
Thank you.
I made it.
Yeah, you did it.
Well done.
John?
All right. I think I'll make a point that the village of Cottage Grove actually has one of the lower tax rates for municipalities within Dane County. A lot of voters and taxpayers don't realize that 56% of our taxes are paid directly to the school district, which may likely increase with the recently passed referendum. The board adopted, before my time on the board, a financial management plan, working with our financial planners as well as our tax accountants, that basically will allow the village to become debt-free in 20 years if we stick to it. Village-wide tax assessment, state law requires that assessed value, if it falls below the 90% of actualized value, within 5 years we must conduct a reassessment. There's 3 options, and my proposal would be to support an intermarket update adjustment where the auditors compare like residential and commercial properties against recent sales using their model. The cost would be approximately $50,000, which is the lowest amongst the 3, and it's the least intrusive. You have the full village-wide assessment, which would be $96,000, and that's where they're actually doing an inside your home, which residents aren't required by law to allow them into their home, as well as an outside exterior assessment. They can do an exterior-only evaluation, which it's a little bit less, but it's labor-intensive, and I think our auditors have been in partnership with the village for long enough that they know the village, and that's why I would recommend the intermarket update as discussed. It's less expensive and just as reliable to bring equality to all taxpayers within the village.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
So the village of Cottage Grove could expand its tax base with more residential homes and businesses, with sustainable business growth to support local businesses and our residents. Our current residents will continue to experience increasing property taxes without any improvements to services or amenities if we continue with without sustainable growth. We also need to ensure that we're utilizing our tax incremental districts wisely. While bringing in new businesses into these TIDs will provide an increased tax base in 20 years, it will not directly help our current tax burden on residents today. Residential growth is needed in addition to business growth to bring in more money to the tax base, increase the volume of people going to local businesses, and providing housing for workers of incoming businesses. I do support village-wide tax reassessment overall, and I believe it is important that we are fairly implementing our property tax across all village residents.
Thanks, Sarah. Jim?
Okay. To answer the first question about the tax burden, there's two ways to control that. One is the long-term way of encouraging commercial growth, and the other is by saying no, by limiting spending. And that's where it gets tougher, because obviously as we get to know what is possible and the ideas that come forward to us, it's about saying no, and that's what you have to do to control spending. So the idea of the reassessment, I don't see that $100,000 spending that before we need to. I don't see that it provides any value. For every $100,000 we spend, that's about 1.5% increase in our property taxes. And it was explained that could go against our reserves, but if we're going to tap into our reserves, we might as well use that for tax relief. We have our reserves for a reason. So I don't believe that we should spend that until we're required to by law.
Thanks, Jim. Alex?
The village really has historically held a tax rate lower than the max allowed by law. So we have the four things in our homeowner's tax rate. So it's the village, Monona Grove, MATC, and then I think the county's in there as well. And our rate has always been less than what we can max levy, which is a good thing, which means there's a lot of, not necessarily no, but like delayed decisions and things that can help keep that burden low. Keep it, and that's good. I know the village hasn't done any referendums itself, to ask to go beyond the levy, so that's also good too. It's fiscal responsibility. I mentioned it before, the empty land, up at Commerce Park. We own some land up there. Getting that built on, getting that acted on, I think we're really, that is where a lot of the burden can be relieved by spreading it out through the bit larger businesses that come in. So that's kind of would be my more of a focus, is to make sure that those lands are built on, that there's good residents there, good neighbors to the neighborhood, and we may have to revisit how we're marketing some of these areas and hold the groups accountable that are working on those projects. That's part of this job is, we got things in play, we got stuff out there, and we need to make sure that the groups we've hired are acting in our best interest.
So the math is actually pretty simple. The fact is, we have a certain amount of village residents that live here. Then you've got the levy, and that has to be divided up by all the residents that are here. So you can only do so much spending, because this was my first budget process that I just went through with the board, and I thought we did a phenomenal job of keeping things cut. We started with what all the department heads wanted, and through Matt's work and the board's work, we were able to cut it down and get a very good budget through. So I really can't find any more money. It's almost like trying to squeeze more out of a turnip that's not there. So the only logical way to do that is through growth. And I don't want to be redundant and just keep repeating what everybody else has said. Commercial growth, we've got the TIDs that have been created so we can get some incentive going. I know that one is going to be due in 19 years, and we've got one that's up, 6-7 years down the road. So it'll all come in certain increments. Summit will be sooner, and that's important for our tax base. But what's equally important is the creation of homes. Not just owner-occupied, not just single-family, but multi-mixed-use homes, multi-family homes, because you have more people paying taxes under one rooftop, and logically it makes sense to have every single option for homes out there for our use, in order for our village to grow, in order for us to take that tax burden down for the residents. I am a strong believer that the reassessment is needed. And I believe, and we can talk as officials of the village all we want, but it is it's not very fiscally responsible to keep kicking the can down the road and saying, we'll just deal with it later, we'll deal with it later when the state makes us do it. I think it's very, very important that we become fiscally responsible and even out that tax base for everybody so it's fair. That's my position.
Thanks, everyone. Fifth question tonight. What ideas or strategies do you have to increase business development in Cottage Grove? It's been topic of conversation in almost every answer. So we'll start with John.
All right, as mentioned earlier, the tax incremented funding districts, I think, are a step in the huge direction. Currently, as mentioned, 6 currently exist to entice developers to come to the village, as well as to develop or refurbish existing buildings within the TIF districts. We have the Community Development Authority, which I believe was established 2 or 3 years ago, that kind of oversees that process. And we also have a great Chamber of Commerce that's very active to champion businesses to come to Cottage Grove. Second point on this is, once again, a champion and lobby for public hearing or listening sessions as to what type of businesses and amenities are desired that are currently not being offered. This will obviously be market driven because someone might want a Mexican restaurant, for example, which luckily is coming into down by the interstate. But we as residents need to be able to support these particular businesses that are coming here. So I'd like to get public input as to what amenities they'd like to see being offered and then probably market towards those types of businesses. And lastly, marketing efforts through staff, the trustees, and in concert with the Chamber of Commerce in order to bring those businesses to the village of Cottage Grove.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
So I strongly believe that our actions speak louder than words, whether if it's on an individual basis or on a municipality level. So if we want to draw businesses to our community, then we can no longer have the reputation of being a bedroom community. We need to make Cottage Grove a place where people can live and work and play, and demonstrate that we have a vibrant and growing community with a bright future that's worth investing in. So I want to listen to what the community and interested businesses want and have a thoughtful consideration and dialogue. Again, we need to demonstrate our openness to businesses through our actions and decisions. For example, Cottage Grove needs some affordable housing options for employees of potential incoming businesses.
Thanks, Sarah. Jim?
Well, to be a broken record, our best tool is the TID to increase business development within Cottage Grove, and we are actively using those in multiple areas within the village. In addition to that, we have to stay on our staff to be proactive. I think they're excellent at being reactive to businesses that come to the village with ideas. What we did as a board is gave our administrator direction and incentives in his annual review and to create goals to be more proactive and to reach out to businesses and try to encourage as much business activity to fill up the Commerce Park, to work on the developments north of the interstate and the rest of the village. I personally introduced both Matt and Aaron to a real estate developer that I know. We had a meeting at their offices and it was productive. So we just need to continue to do what we're doing to try to remove as many obstacles as we can to have as many businesses come to the village.
Thanks, Jim. Alex?
I mean, the key thing is we have to be open to businesses. I know we've created the tax districts. I mean, there's one across the street it's not developed on, right? So there's definitely a gap between the vision and then execution. I'm not intimate with all the details of the general store. You mentioned it earlier, and it was like gas station, quickie mart type of genre. Now working on in Middleton, I don't pass any gas stations between leaving my house and when I get to work. So that 40-minute run, there is nothing. So really the likelihood of me purchasing gas in Cottage Grove is actually pretty low, right? It's just I don't pass it. Gas stations are a place of convenience, not a place I'm going to go out of my way for. I mean, that's the whole name. It's a convenience store. So we need to make sure that if it passes in planning, if it's following ordinances, if it does meet the test, and I'm not intimate, there's probably good reasons, of why it was denied. We just need to make sure that we're getting through there, and then we're explaining back to the business owners as to how this is not being executed or what is the barrier. We had a reputation past of not being business friendly, and any time there is a no, it potentially could have that side effect. So if there is no outreach with the community early on, if there is no outreach with the developers, the people that own the land, what's your vision for the land? How can we help market that for you? Make up a sketch. A lot of the networking we talked about so far, the town, Madison was mentioned, Monona, the school board. We also need to make sure we're connecting with the Chamber of Commerce. And your boots on the ground, connecting with 180 different organizations. Are we helping represent them, and trying to meet their needs as well? Because we're all, kind of in this together. So, that's really kind of the key thing, to make sure that as leadership changes, as the flavor of the board and the direction and the ideas evolve, which is a good thing, to make sure that our ordinances and our comprehensive plan is consistently executed throughout those updates. So,
Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
So business is my wheelhouse. It's what I've been doing for many years, helping grow a business from ground level up to where it's at now, and it's been incredible. I think this is one of the places that we shine, seriously, as a village. We shine in business, and it's because of the focus we've had over the last couple of years. We created TID 10 north of the interstate, which is incredible. It's going to bring in some great things for our community. We have to realize that we are on a bubble of expansion. We're close enough to Madison. We're right in that right place. So we need to show businesses that we are willing to invest in our own community. And I really believe that's one of the things that Cottage Grove, the village of Cottage Grove, has kind of faulted at over the years, is the fact that we weren't really showing that we're willing to invest in our own community in the sense of neighborhood growth, having people here to support business. You can bring all the businesses you want in the world, but if you don't have the people to support them, and we're living a pipe dream thinking that people are going to drive from the west side of Madison over here for a restaurant, or even sometimes even the east side of Madison when they got plenty of restaurants. We need to have people here that are willing to stay here, live here, play here, and spend their money here, which I think is going to be into the next question. So it's imperative that we continue to market ourselves to businesses. I'm a member of the CDA. Do I have some time? I'm a member of the CDA, and one of the things that I was really surprised at was how much money we spend to market our village. $5,000. Well, I've done marketing for years with Genesis Painting, and I'm telling you, you have to spend to make money. You really do. You have to put yourself out there to say, hey, we're willing to invest. Are you willing to come and invest in us?
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
All right, so I'm going to echo some of the points brought up by the other candidates by saying that we should focus on our TIDs. And the key to that success is to match the right business with the right location. We do have great locations available, and TID 5 has shown success recently, and the opening of the Summit Credit Union headquarters is a big step. It has helped fill other spots in the TID. If we can find the right fit for the first business to develop in TIDs 8, 9, and 10, we will have greater success filling the rest of that TID with businesses that will enhance our opportunities right here in Cottage Grove. We can also support those TIDs and our current businesses by increasing our available workforce and consumer base in Cottage Grove. Additional amenities such as the bike path and the splash pad would also bring additional visitors to Cottage Grove. Finally, we can encourage walkable, compact, mixed-use developments along our main corridors through zoning, land use plans, and the site approval process. This would enhance consumer support for our existing businesses while infilling with additional businesses. We can achieve this by pursuing grants for streetscape improvements that will promote residents and visitors to spend more time on our main streets. We can use transportation plans to promote walking and biking in our community. We can use infrastructure changes to slow down traffic on Cottage Grove Road, which will specifically help pedestrians feel more comfortable walking. And we can also plan for effective use of future curb cuts to ease the burden on walkers as well.
Thanks, Heidi. Moving on to question 6.
Did
you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you-
I started.
Yeah,
Oh, you
Jen
started?
started.
Okay, I'm well, Jen gave a look like.
I have my.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. Question 6. So this was a leakage study we did in the chamber in 2015 that showed approximately 87% of spending leaves the village of Cottage Grove. How would you address this? And we're going to start with Sarah.
All right. So I think it would be helpful to have some additional data on where Cottage Grove residents are spending their money and why, and specifically what products people are buying outside of Cottage Grove. When I just think about my own spending habits, I know that Cottage Grove offers many of the essentials, but sometimes it can be more cost efficient and time saving if I leave Cottage Grove, buy everything in one spot, and then come back home. So I'm curious what people are buying when they do go out and then come back home. What can we provide here so that it's just as convenient to stay in town and buy those items as it is to go out of town? So in addition to that, I believe that smart community growth brings in more diverse businesses. So the more people we have, the more it is attractive to have your business out here, the more people who can buy from your business. And residents, and we can have, if we have more amenities similar to what Heidi mentioned earlier, that better match the needs of our residents, then I think we can attract more businesses and keep money here in the village. And I think it's important to keep collecting the data, and so I'd be curious to know how our current Cottage Grove First initiative is working. Since the study came out, I think there was a Cottage Grove First initiative that was launched, and I'd be curious to know, is that working and how is it working? So.
Thanks. Thanks, Sarah. Jim?
Yeah, I don't think Cottage Grove is unusual in this respect, especially since we are just border to border, 3 miles away from Madison. That gap is gonna close in our lifetime to nearly nothing. But the answer is more businesses will create more opportunity. In the Summit Effect, we have Jimmy John's, Swagware Loca, BB Jack's, and others in the works. Other businesses are coming. If we look at retail in general, though, so for some communities, retail can be a liability, whether it's a downtown that is got boarded up stores or retailers with big boxes that are becoming abandoned. We don't have those problems, which is nice. But I think we can grow with commercial businesses and the right mix around them, and encourage that. The role of the village board is to remove any barriers to make that happen. Our job as the board isn't to select the businesses, but to allow the businesses that see opportunity to prosper.
Thanks, Jim. Alex?
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, 2015 is where we got that data. It's a really large number. And where are we, next year, 5 years later, maybe we do the survey again, we get some more data and figure out, what is leaking out. So at 87%, let's just say all of it at this point, with a margin of error. And then as I'm just sitting here, I thought of spending. You have to spend money to make money, and we do have to advertise and market Cottage Grove outside of Cottage Grove to bring the businesses in. Do the residents really know of all of the services that are available here? And I'm pretty confident I don't. And a model that came to mind was Discover Wisconsin, right? So they go out and they visit places, parks, camping grounds, and they tell you all the great things of Wisconsin. The village has a YouTube channel. The village has some community outreach that is leverageable. We do have the community calendar. Coupons are in there, and they're repetitive. I love Canine Corner, and I love all their coupons. And that's how I know them. Can we get additional? How do we grow that model of outreach of, hey, this business is here and it's available to you to use? So it does require a little bit of spending, a little bit of thought, and using the tools that we already have. And then really the other thing is set a goal. Okay, so 87% is the number. I mean, do we want to see 85% within 3 years? Are we looking for 50% leakage? What is the number? What is the goal? If you don't really have anything to strive for, the focus, the vision just isn't there to help execute the mission statement. So.
Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
Well, I think the study done in 2015 should really shake up residents when you hear that. When you think about, I think part of the other study was it with 96% or something like that work outside of the of the area. Can you visualize a Cottage Grove where you actually live here, you work here, you play here? I keep saying that, and I don't want to sound like a broken record. But if you don't, you can bring all the businesses you want in the world here, but if you don't have the people to support them and sustain those businesses, how long are they going to last? It was pointed out that, yeah, with Summit, we've got these other restaurants coming, but those restaurants are only going to pull from that maybe during lunchtime, and then what happens in the evenings, and then how long will that keep going? We need to have the people living here. And here's another thing that was brought to my attention over the weekend. I was talking to a developer that made a really good point. The fact is, people that live in apartments go out to eat and do things more than people that live in single-family homes. Why? Because single-family homes typically will have families, and you cook, you spend time as a family, you sit around a table. But a lot of times when you have apartments or you have mixed housing, they got some disposable income. They're going to go out more often. They're going to do more things. So we can't just say we're going to do owner-occupied, single-family only. We've got to be able to open ourselves up to a whole workforce that's out there that wants to call Cottage Grove home. And that's my main focus. It's just calling Cottage Grove home. My wife and I had that opportunity, and I just want to share in my heart to other people that opportunity too.
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
So I would like to first acknowledge the important economic and social role our local businesses provide. They help define us as a community, play an integral part in building relationships, create local jobs, and benefit our local community. All of the things I've already talked about will help address the consumer dollars leaving Cottage Grove. I will work to fill the TIDs with the appropriate businesses in the appropriate locations. These businesses should complement the businesses already in Cottage Grove. I will also work to both build the workforce available in Cottage Grove and the consumer base of Cottage Grove. If we want to continue to grow our consumer base to support our local businesses, we will need to look at the types of housing that is developed and where those developments occur to ensure we have additional consumers that will likely spend money right here in Cottage Grove. I don't want new employees at the Summit credit unions, for example, to just come and drive into work and then leave. I want them to be able to make living in this great community where they work a reality. I also work to promote new amenities that will draw visitors to Cottage Grove while also keeping our residents here for entertainment and recreation. We can enhance community design along our key commercial corridors to ensure that the image that's being projected is attractive and unique to visitors. We should invest in our existing parks and turn those into destinations drawing residents and visitors alike to help our local economy. I will look to do this in a fiscally responsible manner. I will work to invest in our community, which is really an investment in our future.
Thanks, Heidi. John?
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, I think it's an education process with the residents. I've been looking at this number for the last 4 years and trying to figure out how I personally can invest, and I'm usually reaching out to the chamber about, does this business offer this or whatever it may be, and promote the offerings that the current businesses offer. I think either the same study or a similar study, average commute time to work is a little over 20 minutes, so I'm guessing most people work in the Madison area, and if people spend 8 to 10 hours a day there, maybe businesses need to kind of focus on evening or weekend activities, unfortunately. But as we do grow the residential community, we can support more businesses that come here. Quite certain that we don't want to see the growth that Sun Prairie's experienced over the last 10 or 15 years. We do want to support the local businesses to the greatest extent possible, but if amenities such as big box stores or movie theaters are 20 to 30 minutes away, I think residents are more apt to actually drive the distance to secure those offerings. And lastly, we talked about the school district and the relationship there. The business section of the Monona Grove School District has a DECA program. I had the opportunity to serve as a mock interviewer before they got ready for their state competitions. These great minds are kind of in between. They're not youngsters because they have driver licenses and they're kind of becoming into adulthood. I think it would be a great opportunity to maybe offer this opportunity to the kids that have grown up in Cottage Grove. What would they like to see, and maybe bridge the gap between us as adults, some older than others, and the youngsters, and see what offerings we could possibly bring to Cottage Grove.
Thanks, John. So those are our first 6 questions, and I want to thank everybody for being so prompt with your time. So now we can enter our bonus question for the evening. So, real quick before we do that, I just want to thank all of you. It's clear to me how much you've prepared and how much thought you've put into these questions and just how much you all care about Cottage Grove. So thank you very much for participating tonight. So here's our bonus question. I think we'll go back to Jim and go around from
Is this
there.
a speed round? 1 minute?
You have two still.
You still have two.
Wow, okay.
So this question is, where do you see the official downtown of Cottage Grove? And what's your vision for a downtown?
Well, we have a plan in place, and we have zoning for the center of the village, and we also have a TID. I guess those are all relatively passive things, but I don't believe that having, I think we've done what we can, and we will develop it responsibly, especially the corner of BB and N, to make the village as attractive as possible. The old traditional downtowns can end up being a liability. They look beautiful as you're driving through them, but I know in going to a lot of small towns in the state, there's a flip side to that, to having a downtown. So I grew up in Racine, and the downtown just completely deteriorated. So not to be negative here, but our role is to remove the obstacles for private capital. We can shape it, but we don't create the downtown. I don't think spending millions of tax dollars will do what we will accomplish anything positive in that respect.
Thanks, Jim. Alex?
All the questions are really well thought out, really hard, and this is actually one of the hardest because Cottage Grove really kind of spread itself out. We went to the north with a lot of businesses, a destination place to go within the village. The historical downtown, Old Town Cafe, 1855, that area. The tree lighting that's been in the middle of the, BB and N. BB itself is a 4-lane, 2 lanes in either direction. That's kind of a throughsy, let's just get through it type of area. I like the concept of what's going on down in the park area, and how that can sprawl into, the south side of the tracks there of sort of that old town type feel. There is a bit of landlock issue. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot of commercial growth, but there is things going on for it down there. I think it's one of the uniquenesses of Cottage Grove is that there are multiple locations that you can do things. The program that was started several years back for like Music in the Grove, it's not locked to downtown. It actually spreads around the community and gets utilized by everybody. So it's not this sort of the same local people just walking to that area. This week it's here, another week it's somewhere else. So I think the attractions of the park, is as a destination, and I like the attractions that have been provided locally, the bookmobile, that kind of roves around every Wednesday. Really kind of helps as well. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer as to what the vision is. I'm dragging it out. I'm trying to get it to can I hit the window of time as the last question goes through. But I think it's one of the advantages of Cottage Grove is that the possibilities are really endless. So if a business does land itself in the right place at the right time, it has an ability to make a mark of itself. So,
Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
As I was considering this question, kind of rattling around earlier today, I was reminded of my hometown of Austin, Minnesota, where I grew up. When I grew up in Austin, it was one of those old, like kind of Racine kind of thing, where you had the main street, and it was the downtown, and it was awesome. It was where we all hung out. And then what happened was, as the community kind of spread out, it died away. And then it became a focal point, like wherever Kmart was, wherever Walmart was, that kind of thing. Well, what's now happened is it's turned all the way around, and they've revamped their whole downtown. They took the Spam Museum, they put it right downtown. They did all these things to redraw everybody back to the downtown, and it's been an incredible experience. I mean, the town has come together, the city of Austin's come together, and I think that when you look at like around Clark Street, you look at 1855, all those areas there, that would be a great place for it if you wanted to do a historic downtown. It'd be an awesome area, and it's right in the distance of Bakken Park, and and all the neat things that we're doing out there, the bike path coming through there. So if I were forced to have to visualize where that would be, I think that would be a great spot for it.
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
So I think the most important issue for me in kind of envisioning an official downtown, it's really plays on our current strengths, but those are not really centralized. So we have the area built on recreation near Bakken Park and the Glacial Drumlin Bike Path. We have the significant development near the interstate, and then we have the Cottage Grove Road corridor. And that kind of has the most potential area for providing kind of a future centralized business district. And that could help define a downtown. But because we are spread out, I would like to see a strong transportation plan that supports our local businesses in all of these areas. If residents and visitors are walking or biking in our community, they will be more likely to visit our current and future businesses. So we should improve our transportation network to support our vision for Cottage Grove and help each of these areas thrive. We can combine our transportation planning with better development policies, and that will support our local economy while also enhancing the quality of life for our residents.
Thanks, Heidi. John?
Yep. Once again, I appreciate this question as well as all the questioning. I've lived here for 21 years, and for 21 years I've heard about a downtown area. And originally it was scheduled to be right in the downtown, the four-way stop here. So we do have TID number 9, which is right across the road. It's open through 2036. There's some potential for some mixed-use commercial going down east down Cottage Grove Road out towards Deerfield. However, the other option, and probably the one I favor the most, is what I call the Old Town area, where you got Old Town Cafe, 1855, you got the Outpost. That's zone commercial south along Highway End, or mixed use all the way through the Emergency Service Building. I like that, as mentioned earlier, it's along the bike path. It's walking distance to Bakken Park, which is really going to be our gem of our Parks Department. You have Flynn Hall, which is, for lack of a community center, it's co-used with, it's town-owned, but it's co-used with the village, and it's all within walking distance. Additionally, it's the parade route for Cottage Grove Firemen's Festival Parade, as well as Christmas in the Grove. And really, my envision would be to have some parking, but some commercial fronts along 1855 to the Emergency Service Building for people to gather, whether they want a meal, ice cream, just exercise, and gather as a community for some of these parades that the village offers.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Sarah?
So for me, it's hard to fit what is the phrase, a square peg in a round hole. Many other smaller villages have been built around a downtown, and it seems like Cottage Grove was built, but there hasn't ever really been a central focus. And so I think it's hard for all of us to envision where you put that now that the village has already been built up. And so what I actually vision is having kind of the cute downtown feel of a little shop, maybe a coffee shop, an 1855 restaurant, walkable in all of the neighborhoods of Cottage Grove. Like I said, I love that we can walk to 1855, we can walk to Blackberry, we can walk to the Pig, we can walk to the post office, and we can do all of that walking. And I think of others that maybe live in other parts of Cottage Grove that don't have a sidewalk to get to the great restaurants we have, or the bike path to get from one place to another. So I'd love to see a way to bring the residents to some of those great businesses that we have, and then put some additional destinations, if you will, in some of those other areas, and attract people based on where they're coming. Are they coming off the bike path? And let's have something there. Are they coming out to Bakken Park? What can we attract? So kind of just putting out some things where we have people attracted to.
Great. All right, thank you very much. So that completes our 7 questions for this evening. So we're going to go to closing remarks in a minute. But thanks again for everybody for your preparation, for your participation. I think there were several good points brought up tonight for continued conversation between multiple parties, and the Chamber, of course, will love to be a part of that as well. Did you want to talk now? Okay. So we're going to move to our closing remarks, and everybody will have 3 minutes just to kind of recap, say whatever you'd like, and then that'll complete our evening towards the end. So I think, Alex, if it's okay, we'll start with you.
You're the boss. So yes, it is okay. Thank you. Cottage Grove has a lot going for it, and I like the services that we're looking to provide our community. Right, we have discussions with the new splash pad research, community discussions as it develops. and then enhance business opportunities that we see coming in. We need to recognize, though, boots on the ground for all of this is village staff. You know, they're the day-to-day, the heart of what's going on here in Cottage Grove. From JJ, Sean, Matt, Lisa, Aaron, Chief Labor, the whole crew underneath them. You know, our job, we need to recognize that they're the day-to-day work, and our efforts are really to support that team, set the tone and direction of what we want as citizens, and what we are looking for. We need to continue to hold them to a high standard of performance with our resources and our funds. With the good group on the board, they have, and I know they will continue to do a good job. I look forward to the opportunity to be able to serve the community again. I want to thank the Chamber also again for putting this together, and thank the other candidates as well. Again, an election without choice really isn't an election, so thanks for all being here. Thank you to the community for watching on TV. For those in the audience today, thank you for going out and voting. Thank you for participating in the surveys that were mentioned before. Without the feedback, without the participation in the town hall meetings, without the late night phone calls, it's the text messages, it's difficult to know necessarily what's going on. So we may not know all of you, but it's important that you know all of us. So thank you for being here today and listening to us. And really what I'm looking forward to is it getting warm in April, because I'm done with the cold. So, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for putting up with me tonight. I had rotator cuff repair just a couple of days ago, and it's been kind of a painful experience, but thank you. I want to thank the Chamber. You guys did phenomenal. You really did. And I want to echo what you said too, Alex. We have an incredible staff here in Cottage Grove, and it's been an honor to be able to work with them over the last year and a half. We've got this election, we've got two choices. We get the choice to kind of just maintain the status quo and just do the minimal and try to keep taxes low and, you know, cut here and there, or we can cast a vision for the future. We can say, this is what we want our village to look like and how important that is. So if you are looking for a village board trustee that focuses on the future, I ask for your vote. If you are looking for a village board trustee that has a plan for a successful future, I ask for your vote. If you are looking for a village board trustee that is inclusive and not exclusive in their thinking, I ask for your vote. If you are looking for lowering the tax burden over time through a very successful plan, I ask for your vote. And if you are looking for a village board trustee that serves the village of Cottage Grove, putting village residents and their needs first, I ask for your vote.
Thanks, Jeff. Heidi?
We can take steps to strengthen our local economy through smart growth policies. We should engage community members, promote active living, protect our natural resources, set policies to help fulfill our housing needs, and provide transportation options. We can use our policy tools to ensure that economic opportunity and growth meet the needs of new and current residents and businesses without fundamentally altering the community characteristics. We should strive to create a logical, well-planned future that accommodates predictable growth and provides the tax base required to meet our objectives and visions for Cottage Grove to be a safe, friendly, and attractive community for businesses, neighbors, and families to live, learn, work, play, and enjoy the richness and opportunities of a growing village. I will research options, consult professionals and experts, listen to stakeholders, committees, neighbors, residents of the village, and ask questions along the way to ensure I vote with the best interests of the village in mind. Smart growth policies will help our businesses thrive, families live close to their daily destinations, provide places for recreation, and create tourist attractions that bring investments into our local economy. If you give me your vote on April 2nd, I promise to work to fulfill the long-term vision of the village of Cottage Grove.
Thanks, Heidi. John?
All right, thank you. I've lived a life of public service through the military and look to remain a servant now that I'm retired from the Army. Once again, I've lived in the community for 21 years and have served the village on 16 years as a citizen member on different committees and subcommittees. So I think the experience I've gained, not only being a resident for 21 years, but the experience gained on the commissions and committees that I've served on, goes a long way. I've certainly learned a lot over the last year since I've been appointed on the board. And one thing that stands out is to engage the community early and often, which questions to ask from the developers, and will always have the interest of the Cottage Grove community and specifically the village in mind when making my decisions. It's an exciting time to be involved in Cottage Grove government. We have the Summit headquarters, which is really the anchor out there that the capstone of the TIF district, and the completion of Commerce Park is on the horizon. A new schools being built in the coming years, and we have 6 active TIF districts and annexation requests for increased residential growth to support those businesses. Like Jeff, I became a casualty of the ice about 2 weeks ago, broken ankle, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to go door to door over the next month. I will have a candidate meet and greet this Saturday, March 2nd from 3 to 5 up at Drumlin Residence. Everyone's invited to attend. Please invite your friends and neighbors. And if you want to have a neighborhood meeting, I think that's a little more responsible for me to attend. If you want to set that up, I'd be more than happy to come, whether it's your residence or a local business. But unfortunately, I'm not able to go door to door because of my broken ankle. Residents that have contacted me over the past year since I've been appointed on the board have found results. My focus and goal is open communication before a problem arises through neighborhood meetings or public hearings. While these are not required by law, I know the differences on what we need to do versus what we should do as a village board. Thank you once again to the Chamber for hosting this event, to all the residents that are in attendance tonight and watching, and to all the candidates that actually have stepped forward. Thank you much.
Thanks, John. Sarah?
So Cottage Grove is a fantastic place to live, and right now I think that we are at a crossroads with lots of potential, and we can make this an even more fantastic place to live if we make the right decisions and go down the right paths. So I feel that my leadership roles in healthcare, social work, and the nonprofit fields have prepared me to be an effective and open-minded village leader, and I'm committed to using my experience and skills to serve my community. I'd also like to see our village board be more representative of the folks who actually live in Cottage Grove. So as you can see, there are 2 women up here amongst 4 men, and on the actual board there's 1 woman and 6 men. And Cottage Grove is majority women, actually. It's over 50%. So I'd like to be able to see some more diversity on the board, and so that's kind of one of my final statements I'd like to see. And I ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Jim?
Well, I want Cottage Grove to be continue to be a safe, welcoming community for all that live here and want to live here. One of my goals will be to connect the bike trail from Glacial Drumlin to the Capital City Trail. I think that's in the works. We've got lots of work done and lining up grants to get that accomplished, and also connecting the trail up to McCarthy Park is going to be happening soon. But I think as a member of the village board, the biggest goal is to get out of the way of growth, to remove the obstacles to growth, to welcome growth in commercial. I also strongly believe that owner-occupied is the best route to go with residential growth, and to keep property taxes as reasonable as possible with difficult decisions.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for everybody for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Paula briefly for a few remarks, but thanks for your time. It's a lot easier to ask the questions than answer them, so that was, but thank you very much. Everybody did a great job, and thanks for being prepared. So, Paul?
You used the...
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, see, I was just going to say, he used the word briefly. So I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Obviously, we ended a little shorter than we anticipated. Mike and I literally crunched the numbers and the minutes, and so I would encourage all of you to stay after and maybe talk to the citizens in attendance if they have other questions. I just want to say 2 quick things. In terms of the leakage study, the full leakage study is on our chamber website. And I think there's a lot of good data that is in there, and both Mike and I have written notes to take back to the chamber about possibly doing another one to see if we've moved the needle at all. So, but anybody who's curious about those results, that's on our website. The last thing I'd like to say is kind of more on a personal level to all of you. I have been in those seats before, and it's not easy to be in those seats taking questions. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted us to send them to you ahead of time. But I would also say to you, I've been on the end of a winning village board race and a losing village board race. And there's blessings and value in both. So I guess my personal plea to you is, obviously only 3 of you are going to come through April, but I would really encourage you to stay involved. You clearly have a heart for public service, and regardless of the results of the election, I would encourage you to stay involved. The Optimists, the Lions, the Chamber, whatever it is that you can continue to put into the community, I think there's a ton of value in that. So I applaud you for taking this step. I hope to work with you all in some capacity, because I think you all have a heart for Cottage Grove, and I appreciate that. So thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight.
All right, thanks everybody. Great job.